Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Max Danielsen Show. I'm your host, Max Danielsen, and joining me today is a guest that needs almost no introduction. He is the other part of Jam Sports. He is the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Jared Hedges. Jared, welcome onto the show, my man.
Glad to be on.
Glad to be on. Yes, sir. So it's tradition around here that I ask, first of all, where you go to school, what you're planning to major in, and then also, what are your favorite sports teams? Unfortunately, we don't have a camera right now, or everyone could see that he is wearing a Dallas Stars Winter Classic shirt right now.
So I'd say, well, I'm going to Northlake Community College right now. After next year, I will go to North Texas to major in journalism. And you already know what I want to do, be a sports broadcaster.
Yes, sir. The dream.
Whether it's radio, TV, or even write newspaper articles.
Now, what would you prefer? Let me ask you that.
Honestly, I could care less. Just one of those because I know they make money.
Just in hockey, right?
Yeah. Well, no.
I'm saying that's like your preference.
Oh, yeah. Like if hockey, baseball, football, soccer, all of that, favorite team, you already know who my favorite team is, the Blackhawks, so...
Well,
not going so hot right now.
The viewers don't know what your favorite teams are.
Favorite hockey team or team in general is the Chicago Blackhawks.
Do you have any other teams or just?
Basically all the other teams that I like are all in the area, just not the Blackhawks.
Rangers, Cowboys, Mavericks.
Cowboys. Guess you could say the Mavericks.
I thought honestly you were a Bears fan, because I've seen.
I mean, I like. I know it didn't go so hot this year, but I thought Mitchell Trubisky was going to have I
think everyone did, honestly.
And,
he had a very bad year.
And I just I was wanting to hop onto his bandwagon. Not saying that I was a Bears fan, not like, people are with Lamar Jackson. Because I didn't want to be like the one who was going to come on Lamar Jackson just like everybody was on Patrick Mahomes last year. I didn't want to be that person. I wanted to be somebody else.
Yeah. So I guess without further ado, I guess we were talking about, this is a great transition into that. The Winter Classic, both of us got to experience it. It was, so people have post-concert depression. I'm having that with the Winter Classic because that was one hell of an experience.
It got off to not a great start.
Yeah, the game, by the way, ended with the score of 4-2. The Dallas Stars won against the Predators.
So, you had had 85,630 people. And, from the ceremonies, you had Dan and Shay, you had Midland, you had all those country bands.
I didn't really like Midland and Dan and Shay. They didn't do that well.
I didn't particularly care for them either, but, they
had just a lot of random things. They had, a rodeo. They had pig races, which
incorporating the fair.
Yeah, incorporating the fair. A lot of people were very confused about that, but if you're not from Texas, you don't understand that.
And then, in the first period, not even 5 minutes in.
Not even 3 minutes in.
3 minutes. I didn't keep track of the scoreboard. Corey Perry took an elbowing major on Ryan Ellis, and lucky Ryan Ellis wasn't seriously injured. Got a game misconduct, so the Predators...
took the walk of shame.
Yeah. The Predators had a 5-minute power play, and then not even a minute after that, Blake Como on the penalty kill shot the puck over the glass for delay of game.
Yeah.
5-on-3, Predators score, and then they scored
again.
And at the end of the second period, the Stars finally got one, and it was crazy when they scored. It was the loudest.
It was mayhem.
Doing Dallas Stars goal song. That was the loudest I've ever heard.
I don't know if you saw this on the NHL social media, but they posted when it was the national anthem, and when they did the Stars thing, it was it gave me goosebumps. It was a fun game to say the least. I really enjoyed it. I think I could speak for both of us that we highly recommend, if you have the opportunity to go to Winter Classic, go to it.
It's something that you'll never, ever forget.
And the best part was, after the game, there was an hour-long line for Fletcher's corn dogs.
Oh, yeah. Even before the game.
Oh, yeah. It took us almost 30 minutes to find each other when we got to Fair Park.
Because it was literally every portion of your body was touching somebody.
Yeah.
And
that's how many people were there.
It was literally stopping. It was... Honestly, from what I've been told by people, it was on the same level, if not worse, than what the OU Texas game is at the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah.
There's that many people. You could.
But then the worst part is they blocked off so much in Fair Park, which honestly, if if they took away that, it wouldn't have been that packed. It really would have. You would have at least had walking room, but they decided to block off like almost, I would say maybe 2/3 of Fair Park.
Yeah, because I think their problem was they didn't want, people to just roam wherever they wanted to.
But they kind of needed that, honestly.
Yeah.
And that's why I think Texas OU is like, it's not that packed compared to like this
it doesn't
one.
appear. I mean, it is. I know it is.
Well, the stadium is packed for sure that much, but like
but they have more room to go.
Plus, you also have to take into account for fair goers as well on that day. Well, actually, no, they can't because they need a ticket to even get in for that game. So
and
never mind that.
And then the other thing is, going back to the game, it's, for someone like Nashville's not doing so good.
Yeah.
And you could compare the Winter Classic to, I guess, a playoff game. That's the way the players...
That was like it was playoff atmosphere.
That's what the players feel like it is, playing in front of 85,000 people on a given
but the thing
day.
is, like, they, on average, like, in a playoff game, they'll probably play in front of 40,000, and they just doubled that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's even...
It's crazy, because it's like, yes, it's a regular season game. It's very important that the Stars got the 2 points, and that third period was an amazing showing. They were controlling the Predators.
Yes, they were doing good. Now, the one thing I didn't like, and I know we talked about this a little bit after the game, was that the ice was pretty good, to say the least. But the only problem with it was the puck just couldn't stick to it.
No, like
the puck was hopping around.
You could see if you were paying attention. Like, I don't know what you were doing between intermissions, but you could see the people going out there.
Oh,
the
yeah,
ice
I saw
cream,
it.
Filling in the like cracks.
Yeah.
And
I've never seen that before.
So
like, everyone was in my section was talking about that.
Where I was seated, I was on the first level, right behind the goal that the Stars shoot twice. Mm-hmm. So in the third period, when the Predators are trying to pull their goalie, I don't know who, Stars player, tried to shoot the puck all the way down the ice. Which if it was at the American
Jamie Benn,
if it was at the American Airlines Center, it probably would have gone into the net. Yeah. But it was bouncing, and he didn't go.
Yeah,
in.
It was Jamie Benn on that one. He talked about it in the postgame, and he said the wind took it.
Yeah.
But going on a little bit, so they also, during the game, announced the next Winter Classic, which is going to be in Minnesota.
State of hockey.
That gives the Wild little things less to be salty about.
And it's kind of, we got the Classic first. Yeah. We got the Stanley Cup first.
And we took their North Stars.
Yeah, exactly. And,
Now, do you think they're going to wear the North Stars jersey next year?
Honestly, I would not be surprised if they would, because I don't know of a Wild jersey that's classic enough.
Unless you go like back to Minneapolis,
yes.
like back in the day, like kind of what the Stars did.
Yeah,
but I just feel like they would go the North
I've
Stars.
heard rumors that they're playing at the Twins Stadium.
Well, yeah,
and
which is going to be almost like 200% less of what was at the Cotton
Bowl. I think
a
a baseball stadium, I believe,
is 39,000,
39 or 40, something like that.
So it's at least less than half.
Rumored that they are it's either the Winnipeg Jets
or the Chicago
Blackhawks
again.
Because another thing people need to realize about this game, yes, it did fantastic here in Dallas. Mm-hmm. But did anybody else really watch the game?
No, not many people.
That's the problem.
That's I saw so many people on Twitter like, it's not really Winter Classic if it's not snowing. I'm like, that doesn't matter. No, and I get it matters, but it's the
but
part
for your viewership, like in New York, like honestly, when they announced the Winter Classic here, I was expecting them to probably be playing either the Wild due to rivalry, or they'd be playing the Blackhawks, the Penguins, the Flyers, the Maple Leafs, somebody that has. Okay, well, I want to watch Patrick Kane, Sidney Crosby, somebody like that. I mean, it was great.
Or like the Oilers or something.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It was a fantastic game, but I just don't think.
I think it's one of the best to go down in Winter Classic history.
I don't think I don't think they made a lot of money off of this game. Like here we did, but I don't think the NHL did.
Well, yeah, just because like the idea of it being in the South, everyone's like, it's the Summer Classic. I'm like, we have a winter here.
Yeah, I mean,
I get it doesn't get that cold. But sometimes,
it was honestly perfect weather for an outdoor hockey game. Like I thought it was going to be mid-50s.
Like a typical NHL ice rink. It's like 60, 65 degrees inside.
Yeah, inside. Yeah,
like it doesn't matter that much.
Yeah, and people fail to realize how the rinks are built outside.
Yeah,
they have coils under there to make it freeze.
That's what I remember someone was asking me that. I was like, that's the science behind it. They're like, oh, I didn't know that.
Like you could honestly watch the time frame because they had it on.
They had to redo the ice too at one point
because it rained.
I
can't remember what day it was, but it poured.
Yeah.
and completely ruined the ice, and they had to redo it. And it's maybe only takes a day to redo the ice. It's really not that hard.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. So we'll move on here to a little bit about the NBA. Not much, honestly, besides the fact, and a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, I was hoping that we wouldn't have to break this news, but unfortunately this week, the former NBA commissioner, David Stern, passed away at the age of 77 after a brain hemorrhage. I know there were a lot of people that didn't like David Stern. I know a lot of general managers, a lot of owners didn't like him, also a lot of players. And during the draft, we saw he was basically perceived as the villain. Yeah. But when you take a look back at David Stern's career, he was the man who saved basketball.
Yeah,
he saved NBA basketball as a whole when he took over.
Yeah,
if it wasn't for David Stern, we wouldn't have the NBA, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's always those people who commissioners, anywhere. Every commissioner is going to get booed. Hockey, football, especially
football.
It's
I don't see it much with Adam Silver. But
I think Adam Silver is probably one of the most respected.
He is. But for the NFL,
oh no,
yeah.
It's not good that David Stern passed away. He did quite a bit for the game.
Yeah, he really did.
It's just he didn't do it maybe the best.
I know Lakers fans have a thing against him because of that whole CP3 trade.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. So we'll move on here to MLB. Unfortunately, some more sad news was that I believe it was yesterday, or when the podcast goes up, it'll be Thursday, when Don Larson passed away at the age of 90. One of the best pitchers to ever pitch in a game. I remember he had that. Was it a perfect game or no? It was a perfect game.
I guess if you want to put him in there, but him and Roy Halladay are the only people to, I guess, throw no-hitter / perfect game in postseason.
Yeah.
He did it, I believe, in 1956 on the Yankees.
That sounds right, yeah.
I think he did. I could be wrong, but he's one of the best pitchers to ever pitch in the game. He's a Hall of Famer. Won multiple World Series.
Both of these deaths, like of David Stern and Don Larson, were on the same day. I was like, dang, the sports world lost some big names.
Yeah. And, just anytime, people are, those big guys that, our family, like our dads or our grandparents grew up watching. Those people are going to start. We're going to start seeing seeing the decline. Whether it's Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, all those great baseball players.
Yeah,
they're just getting older and older and older.
It's really sad, man. Definitely the sports world started off on a really sad note. The rest of the world started on a good note, and then literally 2 days in, World War III pops up on Twitter.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting how that plays out, but that's besides sports, so we're not going to talk about that. But we are going to talk about the Minnesota Twins here.
Oh, yeah.
They added on two really good pieces, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Which were Rich Hill and Homer Bailey, both to 1-year contracts. For Rich Hill, last year had a 2.45 ERA with 13 starts, and then Homer Bailey, in his last 8 starts last year, had a 2.25 ERA. And I want to ask you, Jared, how do you think, A, these signings help the Twins, and B, how are they looking now?
So here's the thing with Rich Hill. He won't be back till probably the All-Star break.
Mm-hmm.
He's had hip surgery, so he'll be out. But I believe it's a great signing because they lost Kyle Gibson.
Yeah.
He came here to the Texas Rangers, and they're already building a very good baseball team. They have a decent lineup, and also, if you want to talk about rumors, supposedly the Twins have a 4-year offer for Josh Donaldson.
Mm-hmm.
So if they add him, they're the team to beat in the AL Central.
Mm-hmm.
And, they won the division last year. The White Sox are looking really good right now.
Oh, yes. They added, let's see.
Grandal. They got Mazzara from the Rangers.
Also Edwin Encarnacion.
Yes.
And then who was the pitching they just added? He was a big name.
They had Gio Gonzalez.
Yeah, Gio Gonzalez was one of them.
And then they got Dallas Keuchel.
Dallas Keuchel, that's who I'm thinking. And that was a big signing.
They still have the best farm system. Well, I think
they have one of the best farm systems.
But although their top prospects are going to jump to the big leagues this year, so they should. On paper, they should be loaded.
Now, you want to know that's and I forgot about this whole thing. If you remember with that Fernando Tatis Jr. trade, he was originally on the White Sox.
Yeah.
So imagine if Tatis Jr. was still there.
You'd have a loaded infield with Moncada at third.
Yeah.
and then Tatis at short.
Don't forget Eloy Jimenez.
Yeah, and then Luis Robert, who's the third best prospect of baseball, roaming center field, and you got Mazzara. Or no, they don't have Mazzara. Yeah, they do. They have Mazzara and Wright. They have a team. They have a decent bullpen. They should be able to be a wild card contender, in my opinion.
We're going to go on also. Cincinnati Reds, this came out yesterday. They signed Japan outfielder Shogo Akiyama to a 3-year, it's around a $15 to $20 million contract. His stats last year in Japan, over 141 games. He hit .303 with a .392 on-base percentage and .471 slugging with 20 home runs and 62 RBIs. I mean, this is the one thing we've seen this year is there has been a lot of international signings in free agency, more than in past years, because especially with because I know who is it that got the Rays? I'm pretty sure got a first baseman from Japan.
I can't remember his name, but I
have it in my notes.
They got one, and with Cincinnati getting this guy, they have a good outfield now, and the NL Central's in a weird spot. Mm-hmm. Because the Reds are on the outside looking in. They're very close. They have a good farm system. And, the whole issue with the Cubs is the general manager, Theo Epstein, is saying that they're willing to move one of their big guys, whether it's Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to trade Javier Baez. It'd be stupid to do that. But they got to move one of their guys. Mm-hmm. So whoever it is,
I feel like it's going to be Brian of all people.
And quite frankly, if it's my opinion, I believe if the Rangers fail to land Nolan Arenado, which I would probably place the odds of the Rangers getting Arenado at probably about 60%. I think it's very likely it can happen. I believe Chris Bryant will be traded here because we need a third baseman.
Yeah. Or if they're going to take, I don't know what the heck the Rangers are doing at this point, because they're thinking, because JD John Daniels is thinking about, well, you also have Josh Jung coming up in the organization. Yeah. So they're thinking, because I know they're either debating, do we want to get a big guy now, or do we want to wait for Jung to develop and get a replacement for right now and just fill the hole?
Because what I'm thinking is, here's what you can do. I don't know how far off Jung is from making the big leagues since
probably
he's a
about
college
2 years.
kid.
Probably about 2 years.
Since he's a college kid. I'd say that's plenty of time to learn first base.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing.
We have Guzman at first base.
When can you land a talent like Nolan Arenado?
That's true.
Because, see, here's the thing. What team's going to be able to take on his $33 million contract? All of it.
Yeah.
The Rangers are about one of the only teams that can really do that.
I mean, it'll be interesting.
And it shouldn't. It will take quite a bit to get Nolan Arenado.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's going to take a lot of.
If the Rangers are willing to take all of his money, all of the contract, that would not be a problem. Because see, the Rockies don't want to trade him to the Dodgers because then they have to play him in the division 19 times. And if you trade him to the Nationals, which is another rumored team.
Now, do you know what's funny about the Nationals that I saw yesterday? Do you remember who gave up the runs in the Game 7 from the bullpen?
Oh, yeah. They
Will
signed
Harris.
him.
They signed the most ironic signing in the world.
Yeah.
I had to laugh for a solid 2 or 3 minutes because I was just like, that is the most ironic.
He's the one who gave up that Kendrick home run.
Yeah. That's exactly. I just think that's so ironic, how the world comes back around.
Yeah, and, I would think the Rockies would be hesitant to trade him into the National League. Well, I definitely think
they are.
Because then you're going to have to play him
I think they're
times.
just hesitant to trade him in general because he's the best third baseman in the game.
Now, the problem is they're on a rebuild stage.
Right.
Because, yes, they just gave him a crap load of money.
But then he also has to opt out here in a couple years.
And I feel like if the Rangers are going to acquire him, they would need to renegotiate, whether it is you bump up his pay and you say, hey.
I think they're going to say to waive off that
they're going to have to do something for him. And see, this process with, people who keep up with the Rangers, this process of getting free agents, it's over the next 3 years. Because over the next 3 years, there's world-class talent. Now, the problem is, can you land them?
Right.
They have the money to do that. They just better pick somebody or else it's not going to go good.
Yeah. Alrighty. So we're going to take a very quick commercial break here. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the NCAA football, the bowl games that just happened, and just our predictions for how the college football playoff, the championship game, will be going. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back. to announce Gage's Granite as an official sponsor for the Saturday podcast. Gage's Granite is a family-run company operating nearby in the Dallas Metroplex. They offer custom granite, travertine, onyx, and marble countertops to homeowners and businesses since 2000. Give them a call today at 972-243-6097 or visit gagesgranite.com or on Facebook and Twitter. You can also stop by the main showroom located at 2427 Glenda Lane in Dallas. Gage's Granite, a proud sponsor of the Max Danielsen Show.
Hey guys, this is Jason with Lacrosse Monkey. Are you looking for a place to shop for your next athletic season? Monkey Sports is here to help. Whether you're looking for baseball, hockey, or lacrosse gear, if you can dream it, we've got it. We provide both the latest and best on the market equipment for your athlete. Stop by and visit us at 105 West Bethany Drive, right off of US 75 in Allen. Monkey Sports, a proud sponsor of the Max Danielsen Show.
And we are back here on the Max Danielsen Show. Where we left off, we were talking about the Winter Classic of the NHL, talking also a little bit about the NBA, and then finally we just got done talking about the MLB and then some recent free agent signings. So we'll go into college football here. The first thing that we have, Clemson beating Ohio State by the score of 29-23. In that game, Trevor Lawrence went 18 for 33, 259 yards, 2 touchdowns, as well 107 rushing yards, and 1 rush TD. Jared, my question right now is, how do you picture Clemson going into this? Because Lawrence, again, has proven himself this season. At the start of the season, didn't do too hot. He wasn't really the big guy. A lot of people thought the big guy was going to be Tua and then Jalen Hurts. And then now, when the playoffs have come up, especially then and then at the very tail end of the season, he's really proven himself to be a very great QB and who could be a solid QB in the NFL.
Yeah, and, it's just like what people say about Tom Brady. He didn't start off as great in the regular season.
Yeah.
People were just like, I remember even reading articles after the first few games of the season. Will Dabo Swinney make a change at quarterback? Bench him for a couple games. But see, he turns it on when it matters the most.
Yeah, he really does.
And I don't know if you saw it, but I know there was a couple missed calls in that game, like one that obvious pass interference call where Clemson defender had him wrapped up, and they reviewed it, didn't overturn the call.
Yeah.
Just a couple missed calls.
And I think that's just the reason. It's the same thing kind of with NFL.
Yeah.
Like, the refs don't want to be wrong. They don't. Even if they're wrong, they won't admit it.
Yeah. And, ultimately, Clemson leading up to LSU next Monday, the 13th, I kind of iffy about it. I still think LSU will pull it off. I think it's going to be really close.
Oh, it's definitely going to be a good game. And speaking of LSU, we'll talk about this. LSU, the kindest words to put it was completely annihilated OU by the score of 63-28. Joe Burrow that game had a phenomenal game, 29 for 39, 493 yards, 7 touchdowns.
And those 7 touchdown passes were in the first half.
Yeah, and speaking of which, Jordan Jefferson, he was one of the only players in a college bowl game to have 4 touchdowns, and he did that in the first half. 4 touchdowns, 227 yards. I mean, what a game for him especially. But more so, Joe Burrow, he's making himself a big name.
He's almost clinched, not my opinion, because I know a lot of people think this. He'll be the number 1 pick. Cincinnati will take him and be the guy that changes their franchise.
Now, the question is, what do they do with Andy Dalton? Do they just keep him around, or do they
quite
think to
frankly,
ship him out?
I don't know. It depends on what they think, because Joe Burrow probably is ready to start. It's just a matter of, do they want him to learn under Andy Dalton? Because Andy Dalton's not a horrible quarterback.
No, he's a decent quarterback.
Give him, I don't know what Andy Dalton's contract status is, but if it's his last year, Joe Burrow will be starting week 1.
Yeah.
Barring injury.
Mm-hmm. We'll go on here. Ironic here that when we were talking about the Winter Classic at the Cotton Bowl, we'll talk about the Cotton Bowl right now. Penn State beat Memphis by the score 53-39. I mean, this was a big surprise in my opinion because Memphis had one heck of a season. I know they're losing their head coach too, I believe he's going to Florida State, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, all I know is, Memphis plays in the AAC.
Yeah.
And, Penn State plays in one of the best, besides the SEC, the Big Ten.
Yeah.
It's one of the best conferences in football, having to play Ohio State and Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So, they play better competitions. So I really wasn't surprised that, they beat them as much as they did.
Yeah. And then going on, I'm pretty sure this is your team. The Florida Gators beat Virginia by the score of 36-28 in the Orange Bowl. Overall, Florida played a great game. Virginia, we heard about them, like they beat Virginia Tech for the first time, I believe it was in 8 years. Clinched the ACC, if I'm not mistaken. Had a pretty decent year overall. But of course, Florida is Florida.
Yeah, I just think, Florida's getting it figured out. They really haven't been a great team ever since Tim Tebow left.
Mm-hmm.
They've been okay. I just think I'm not saying they're back. They're not college football playoff contention. Not by any means.
We'll talk about a team that's good. That
by any means, I don't think they are. But
yeah,
they're certainly if they changed the playoff format to 8 games, I think Florida would certainly be a team.
Another team that in the Rose Bowl, Oregon beat Wisconsin by the narrow score of 28-27. Pretty sure Oregon's QB is Justin Herbert. I'm pretty sure had a great game, by the way. I saw a tweet from someone. I mentioned this guy's name on the podcast here a lot because his name comes up frequently. That was my, I believe, second guest, Jackson Epps. He was talking about that Justin Herbert is, or was it? Yeah, it was Justin Herbert should be like the top QB in the NFL draft. And I don't think
before call it the season, I believe he was on the big board. He was the number one prospect, but nobody was expecting Joe Burrow to do what he has. I mean,
Joe Burrow came out of nowhere.
I think Herbert's going to be picked
fairly high
within the top 5 because I bet Miami will probably take him.
Well, they need to.
Yeah, I mean,
unless they decide to go Tua. Unless they decide that
Tua might not.
I know that's and that's one thing we forgot to. Heck, I mean, we are in college football right now, so we can talk about that.
So, like, what I've heard is
that he's debating.
Whenever this comes out, I don't know the specific date, but on January 6th, suppose it's Tuesday. I think it's next Tuesday.
Yeah, next Tuesday. No, next Monday.
Okay, whatever day it is. He's rumored to announce his plans, whether is he going to return for his senior season at Alabama. And I looked at the stats. He would, if he comes back to Alabama and plays like he did before he got injured, he would be getting at least $30 million guaranteed.
Dang.
If he gets picked in the first round, I can't remember in the neighborhood of picks, he'd be getting about $19 million guaranteed. Mm-hmm. So do you want to make sure you get your $19 million guaranteed, or do you want to take a chance and get 30?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting. Plus, in my opinion, if he decides to stay, now he's got a lesser amount of QBs to deal with in the draft pool.
Because he will be a top pick, for somebody like, Indianapolis. I mean, they're going to need a quarterback. It depends on who all gets their quarterback's needs addressed this draft. He'll certainly be a top pick with Trevor Lawrence next year.
And then talking about another one, Minnesota defeated Auburn in the Outback Bowl by the score 31-24. Minnesota had a great year. I know that. Auburn has been kind of on the decline for the past while. We won't talk about that as much as the next game, though, being Alabama defeated Michigan in the Citrus Bowl by the score of 35-16. No doubt we knew Alabama was going to win this bowl.
Yeah.
Especially the fact Michigan is a very inconsistent team, especially with their rivalry between Ohio State, which
I haven't seen since John Harbaugh's – is it John or Jim?
Is Jim Harbaugh.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's Jim.
Yeah, Jim Harbaugh.
Because John's with the Ravens, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, it's Jim. Jim Harbaugh, ever since he's been the head coach at Michigan, they haven't beaten Ohio State.
Yeah.
They haven't really had any, great wins. Yeah. And, Alabama, you're going to go up against Alabama.
Nick Saban,
I don't know if you saw the video, but Nick Saban, if you've ever seen him get mad on the sidelines, he broke his headset one time.
Yeah.
And they were winning the game, and he's that into it.
Yeah, he's like Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I believe next year, if Tua comes back, Alabama's going to be a serious team to look for. But we'll talk about another team here. If they are back, as they said last year they're going to be back, and clearly they weren't. That is the Texas Longhorns. They defeated number 11 Utah in the Alamo Bowl by the score of 38-10. Sam Ehlinger in the game went 12 for 18, 201 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. The question, Jared, is Texas back?
No.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Because they got to beat OU.
Mm-hmm. And OU has a very, very, very good recruiting class coming in.
And the problem is, the biggest team they play is OU.
Yeah,
they have
or Baylor.
Or Baylor. Yes, forgot about them. Speaking of which, they were great too.
Mm-hmm. They were really good.
And they've got to string together a solid 3 years.
Yeah,
they're not back. They don't play the great competition that other people have.
Well, I mean, it's also the Big 12.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a conference known for no defense.
No, I say they probably got another 5 years.
Yeah.
All
right, that's
really
a good
back.
estimate. That's a fair assessment there. So we're going to take one more quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit about the NFL, especially with the recent news of Jason Garrett. So you don't want to miss that, so don't go anywhere. We will be right back. The Max Danielsen Show is proud to announce Gage's Granite as an official sponsor for the Saturday podcast. Gage's Granite is a family-run company operating nearby in the Dallas Metroplex. They offer custom granite, travertine, onyx, and marble countertops to homeowners and businesses since 2000. Give them a call today at 972-243-6097 or visit gagesgranite.com or on Facebook and Twitter. You can also stop by the main showroom located at 2427 Glenda Lane in Dallas. Gage's Granite, a proud sponsor of the Max Danielsen Show.
Hey guys, this is Jason with Lacrosse Monkey. Are you looking for a place to shop for your next athletic season? Monkey Sports is here to help. Whether you're looking for baseball, hockey, or lacrosse gear, if you can dream it, we've got it. We provide both the latest and best on the market equipment for your athlete. Stop by and visit us at 105 West Bethany Drive, right off of US 75 in Allen. Monkey Sports, a proud sponsor of the Max Danielsen Show.
And welcome back here to the Max Danielsen Show. Where we left off, we talked just a little bit about college football and as well the big bowl games this week. So we're going to be talking about the NFL and the big thing that came up. So yesterday, Redskins fired Bruce Allen, but more importantly, they hired their brand new head coach, Ron Rivera. In my opinion, for the Redskins. Now, what I've said about Ron Rivera is he's a very inconsistent coach. He knows how to manage a game, but he's shown that it's very inconsistent at times. But when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, for the Redskins, this is overall a really, really good hire.
Because Rivera is one of the most well-respected coaches in the league.
Don't get me wrong. I really like Ron Rivera as a coach. It's just that he's inconsistent.
I just don't think, with Carolina, they had Cam Newton. And they've had recently with Christian McCaffrey being the best running back in the league, in my opinion.
We're going to talk about him, too, in here in a sec.
They weren't they've had, decent teams up there. But this year they were just so injury plagued. Mm-hmm. Like they had Kuechly. I believe Kuechly was out for a little bit.
Yeah, he was.
Cam Newton's played
Pretty
in
sure
all but
Olsen
3
was
games.
out for a while,
Olsen
too.
was out for quite some time. It's just, they've always been bit by the injury bug when it was
especially
the least
Newton,
convenient
which stinks because Newton overall, if you look at his game, on paper, he's a really, really good quarterback. He has some of the best talent in the NFL, but just his injuries have just plagued his career.
I believe, in the Panthers have always had, a great defense under Rivera, and I think he will emphasize that with the Redskins because they had a decent defense. I mean, it's kind of hard.
It's kind of hard when you're
always on the field.
Yeah,
kind of like the same thing with the Chicago Bears. They had a great defense last year, and they kind of did this year. But when the offense is constantly giving you 3 and outs, it's like you're sitting on the bench for what, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes,
2-3 minutes maybe.
And I forgot who his offensive coordinator was, but it was a big name offensive coordinator that Rivera brought in.
Oh yeah.
I
Actually,
totally forgot who it was.
no, I know exactly who you're talking about. He was a big name guy. Let me pull that up here for just 1 second.
In this hiring, I'm not saying it makes the Redskins a good team. It's a process.
Yeah, it was Jack Del Rio.
That's who it was.
Defensive coordinator.
Jack Del Rio is one of the best defensive minds there is. And
Yeah, I know. That was a big name.
Rivera's a defensive-minded coach, so you pair that with two great defensive coaches. That's a recipe for success. You just got to find a stud offensive coordinator.
Yeah. So for the Cleveland Browns, they parted ways with their GM, John Dorsey. We knew that was eventually going to happen.
Yeah.
But what surprised me was that they fired their head coach, Freddie Kitchens, after 1 year and going 6-10, while the past year they had Hugh Jackson, who in his, I want to say 3 or 4 years,
He only won 3 games.
accumulated 3 wins.
Yeah, and
I'm surprised they fired him so
they
quickly.
They kept Hugh Jackson after an 0-16 season.
Yeah.
And
I'm surprised they fired Freddie Kitchens.
Now,
I'm very
my
surprised.
thing is supposedly, and again, it's kind of hard to know what's true and what's not, but I heard he lost the locker room, which, if you lose the locker room, if that's true, that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, it is.
And they did have sky-high expectations with Odell Beckham, and Nick Chubb led the league in rushing, and they're expecting a huge sophomore year from Baker Mayfield, and that didn't turn out
Yeah.
well.
It really didn't. And that's the one thing, I want Baker to succeed because he's the sober Johnny Manziel.
But I'm starting to think
Johnny Manziel.
I'm starting to think he's just going to be another quarterback.
I think he
that's
really
failed.
is. I think he really will be because he's just so inconsistent. He has the talent, don't get me wrong, but he's just inconsistent as hell.
Yeah.
We'll talk about also same division, these next 2 topics, NFC East. Giants fired Pat Schumer after going 9-23, his entire stint with the Giants. Who the Giants will hire, that'll be interesting.
I have a very, very good idea.
You think it'll be? You think it'll be Jason Garrett?
Yes, I have a.
I wouldn't
have
doubt
a
it.
strong feeling that it would be, and Pat Schumer, I understand why he was fired. He only won 9 games in 3 years.
9 games.
I didn't have big expectations for them this year. Saquon Barkley was out 4 or 5 games, something like that, and Daniel Jones, Eli's contract comes off the books. You're building your team around Daniel and Saquon,
yep.
and it's going to be a process. And I feel like Jason Garrett might be
I could definitely see it.
a good coach for them for the next 5
So I
years.
definitely think now this is a perfect transition going into the Jason Garrett firing. Now the Cowboys haven't officially released everything. This is all from ESPN, which take it or leave it is.
It's a pretty reliable source.
It's a reliable source.
I would not
fully trust it yet.
I'm kind of I'd probably say it's probably about 80% chance he has been let go. It's not that they fired him. It's just his contract.
They told him they're
not going to renew his
Exactly,
contract. Yeah. And I believe it's 3 years too late.
Yes, for sure. But now, and what we've been talking about here, I feel that personally, no matter where the Cowboys go at this point, it's not going to be better.
No,
it really won't be because they're thinking about what we were talking about.
Think of it. Since Bill Parcells, Wade Phillips was a downgrade.
Yeah.
Then Jason Garrett was a downgrade from Wade Phillips. So what is that? What's a downgrade from Jason Garrett? My opinion is it's maybe Chris Richard.
Yeah.
Who has 0 NFL coaching experience. Now, if
they bring in Mike McCarthy, for example, it's not that Mike McCarthy's a bad coach or anything. Because honestly, for 3 quarters, he's a decent coach. But when you get to the 4th quarter, he just says screw it.
Frankly,
and he decides
I think the big name that I think that, and I don't know what their thing is. Cleveland's head coaching search, they want somebody who has NFL experience.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that Mike McCarthy is probably going to be their next head coach.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
And I just think that with the Cowboys, they're going to offer an absurd amount of money to either Urban Meyer or Lincoln Riley.
And I don't think those 2 are going to leave.
I don't think Lincoln Riley will, but I think Urban Meyer might. I know he likes what he does with Fox for college football, but there's a chance he might. After he come, if he doesn't come, who's available?
I think they would then do their offensive coordinator, if I'm not mistaken.
So Kellen Moore.
Yeah, who's also it's either
Chris Richard's the guy that everybody talks about for.
Yeah.
But see, he's also been being interviewed for coaching somewhere. I think it was New York. New York even wanted him, but I've heard, I don't even know the guy's name, the defensive coordinator for the 49ers, whoever that is. I don't know his name.
Yeah,
That's
I don't
another
know
guy
yet.
that's rumored to come here. But here's the problem. I wanted them to at least interview Ron Rivera. Say, hey.
That's what I thought. I thought that would have been a good. It definitely would have been downgrade. Don't get me wrong, but it at least would have been.
But here's the problem.
Signing.
But here's the problem with that. Ron Rivera is not the coach that will
exactly
kiss Jerry Jones's butt. You're going to have to find a coach that's going to be like, Ron Rivera is a guy that Dan Snyder's going to be like, what do you want?
Yeah.
Do you want who do you want? How much money do you want to spend in free agency? Okay, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, Jerry Jones doesn't do that.
No.
He's going to say, you're going to spend my money and how much I want to get.
And on who I want you to get.
And Jason Garrett was fine with that. No coach, in my opinion, that's in the draft pool right now will do that.
Working for the Dallas Cowboys would be a tremendous honor.
Yes.
One of the most historic franchises in the league, or well, really, in the world.
But no one wants to kiss
But no
Jerry
one wants
Jones.
to. No one wants to work with a boss that sucks like
Yeah.
Jerry does.
And that's why I think the Cowboys won't be competing for Super Bowl until the day Jerry Jones dies.
And I believe that's
And
the
even
case.
so,
or
afterwards,
steps away, which that's not ever going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. We'll talk about here famous Jameis Winston, a 30 interception, 30 touchdown season. It's great when you have him as your fantasy QB, and as well, he's also your opponent's QB.
I don't know if you saw or read, but the head coach, Bruce Arians, came out and said publicly, we can win games without Jameis Winston.
Dang.
That is not
that's not good.
a good sign.
It's not good.
So it makes me believe that they're going to move on. And I probably would, because there's terrible. I mean, those numbers just prove how inconsistent he is. And how many times, I didn't really ever watch them because they've sucked. But I wonder how many times he would have been interceptions.
Yeah.
That were just missed.
Yeah. Probably would have been more, honestly.
Yeah.
We'll talk about here who we were talking about earlier. Christian McCaffrey became the third player in NFL history to rush and receive 1,000 yards.
And I believe he is the best running back in the game.
Oh, 100%.
And
either that or Mark Ingram.
I believe it's, in my opinion, top 3. I mean, Elliott's top 5. I don't think he's top 3. I go McCaffrey, Barkley. I know Barkley's not on a good team, but he's still one of the best in the game. And I think you could throw Kamara up there.
Kamara or Ingram, I would say.
Yeah.
Because Ingram's had a great year, too.
Killing it up there. And I guess you could say Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook played
he's been doing
really
good, too.
But McCaffrey, I mean, he led the team in receiving as a running back. That's absurd.
Yeah.
1,000 yards for a running back. That is crazy.
Don't forget, also 1,000 yards as a receiver, too, on top of that.
He's going to be one of the I believe when he's all said and done, he's going to be one of the best running backs to ever
For
play.
sure. I would
Barring
definitely say
injury, he'll be one of the best running backs ever.
Because that's the one thing about running backs. They only stay in the year for 2 or 3 years because of that amount of injury that they have and wear and tear on their body.
Yeah, and thank goodness he has not had
Yes,
a
thank
severe injuries.
Because it's fun watching him play. I also had him on my fantasy team, which was a blessing.
My big guy on my fantasy, I lucked out with picking Nick Chubb.
Oh, that's a good pick. Yeah.
Leading the league in rushing. I had Adam Thielen, which was great for the most part. And then when
he's at least going to get you your points.
And then when he was hurt, I had to find alternate ways. And lucky pick, I picked up Brown, whatever his first name is, off of Tennessee.
Oh,
I picked him
Daniel
up.
Brown, I'm pretty sure.
I picked him up.
I picked him up at the late end of the season. He's been doing good.
I ended up winning the league with Michael Thomas and Nick Chubb.
Now, I'm
leading
pretty
the way.
sure. Let me make sure that.
I think it's A.J. Brown.
A.J. Brown. Yep, that's it.
And, in this playoffs is going to be amazing.
Oh, it will. And, hey, perfect transition again. Let's talk about playoff predictions. Who do you think is going to win? Who do you think is really not going to go that far?
I cannot bet against the Patriots.
Mm-hmm. I think no one can.
And it's awesome that, Baltimore beat them in the regular season.
But we know when Brady gets in the postseason,
because
he becomes a truly different beast.
It's hypotheticals, yes. But what if Brady turns it on? Like,
Yeah.
he turns into a 25-year-old Brady
Yeah.
in his
Just
technically
gunslinging the football down the field again.
owns every Super Bowl record, is the greatest quarterback of all time. I would debate
yes.
that with just about anybody. And last year, for example, no one expected them to beat Kansas City in the playoffs. They did.
And then they went on to play the worst Super Bowl in NFL history,
And,
for sure.
People last year were talking about it. And they're doing it this year, too, saying, is this the downfall of the Patriots dynasty? They're saying that last year. They won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Are they going to say that this year? I mean, I think it will be harder for them to get there
Especially
this
now
year.
that they don't have Gronk.
Yeah.
That's another big thing.
And quite frankly, if you're asking me for a Super Bowl pick, I'm leaning towards it being two former Patriot quarterbacks. I would say New England and San Francisco.
Wow. Okay.
Because
that's interesting.
I get, it's probably going to be the way I looked at the playoffs, the conference final or championship, I guess is what they call
Conference
it.
championship, yep.
So in the AFC title game, it will probably be Baltimore and New England, depending on how well. Because the way I looked at the path, I think it's who is it? Baltimore would get the winner of
The lower seed game, which is the 4 and 5.
who is that? That's Houston?
It's Houston and oh Lord, who was that? It's the other wild card team. It's the first wild card team.
Who is it?
Oh, I'm trying to think.
I got it. I'm pulling it up, but
Because
yeah,
I know for NFC it's Seahawks and then Vikings for the wild cards. I'm trying to think.
Titans. Oh, no, it's Bills. That's who the
Bills.
Bills.
Yeah, that's
so,
the Bills.
So the Ravens would get the winner of the Texans and Bills.
Or if somehow the 6th seed comes out and wins, then they would get them.
Somehow beats New England, which
Yeah.
I don't know if Tennessee can beat New England.
Yeah.
But if they did, that would be certainly crazy.
It definitely would, in my opinion.
Now, in the NFC, I think, and I know you may like hearing this coming from me, but I think in the NFC Championship, again, I'm not looking at the brackets, so I don't know how it'll turn out.
Yeah.
I think seeing Green Bay and San Francisco, to me, it's New England or Green Bay versus San Francisco.
Yeah. But the problem, here's my thing about Green Bay. I just think they're just inconsistent, but I know how playoffs work, and they turn it up.
And that's
I know
my
that
thing
they
is yes, it's inconsistent, but it gets results. As long as his results are there, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So if they get that done, I just, my thing is as great as Drew Brees is, he doesn't really do what he does in the regular season in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I get last year they got screwed on that pass interference call. I get that. But he doesn't play as great in the playoffs as he does in the regular season. Like, it's great, all the stats that he has in the regular season. But if you add all of Tom Brady's stats, playoffs and regular season, and add all of Drew Brees' playoffs and regular season, Tom Brady has him beaten almost every single category by quite a bit.
Yeah.
So when I look into stats, I take account of everything that guy does.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting for the playoffs. And I think with that being said, this is going to wrap up another episode of the Max Danielsen Show. Jared, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an honor to have you on, especially being my former co-host of Jam Sports. It's tradition around here that I ask the guests if they have any last words to say before we wrap it up.
I really don't have much. I'm just looking forward to the second part of the NHL season. Hopefully the Blackhawks make the playoffs, which I'm highly doubting that ever happens. But looking forward to a great NFL playoffs and looking forward to the new season at the new ballpark for the Rangers.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
And the
for sure.
XFL.
Don't forget
that.
the XFL. Yes, sir. That'll be fun to watch. So that's going to do it for today's episode, as I thank you from myself, Max Danielsen. And as always, have a pleasant good morning, a good afternoon, or good evening to you, wherever or whenever you may be watching. Thanks, y'all, and see you next week.